Right now. Welcome to our third installment of the Whiska webcast. Our special guest tonight is Garrett Weber-Gale. Garrett was born in Stevens Point, graduated from Nicolet High School in 2003. During his high school career, he set the national record in 100 freestyle. Then he competed at Texas for Longhorns. When he graduated in 2007, 2006, he was the NCAA Division I champion in the 100 freestyle. In 2008, you were the automatic qualifier in the 1500 freestyle at the Olympic trials, and then swam at the 2008 Summer Olympics. Welcome to the show, Garrett Weber-Gale.
Hey, thanks, Kyle. Appreciate you having me on.
Yes, so your history with me goes back a long time ago when you were just a young swimmer, a young swimmer, probably freshman year at Nicolet High School, maybe sophomore year, when we went to Y National.
Not before that.
Probably eighth grade?
Maybe even like, I want to say maybe like 98 or 9, maybe when I was in 7th or 8th grade even. Yeah, a long time ago.
So how did you get interested in the sport of swimming? Your bio said that you did a lot of other sports before you started focusing on swimming, and I know that your mom swam collegiately. So what was she a driving force, or what really drew you to the sport of swimming?
Yeah, so I grew up in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. I guess I shouldn't say grew up. I was born in Stevens Point. There was nothing really to do up there. My mom was with my sister and I, so she took us to the Century Insurance Fitness Club where my dad worked every day. We were swimming, got in the water when we were really young, and loved the water. My sister and I were on the Fox Point swim team when we were really young, around the corner from our house, and that just kind of developed for a love of being, in the water. But we did a lot of different sports. I did basketball through middle school. I did soccer. I did baseball. I was on a downhill ski team at Ausblick Ski Club out in, I don't even remember the name of that town. It's a long time ago. But yeah, I did a lot of sports, and I actually didn't start swimming year round until I was a freshman in high school. Up until that point, I would swim part of the season, then I would go away to summer camp. And I think that was really helpful for me, actually, because it helped me identify what I really liked to do, and then also where I had some potential. I love basketball, but I could tell I wasn't going to be a great basketball player. It was just kind of this constant narrowing effect that led me to swimming.
So you swam at Nicolet, and just 2 years ago, Dwight Davis got into the Whiska Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What was your relationship with him?
I love Dwight, first of all. And Dwight actually saw me swim when I was probably about 6 years old at the Fox Point pool. My mom is very leery of anyone looking at her kids. And this guy, Dwight, he's kind of this big, burly, hilarious guy. And he was watching me swim butterfly. And I was like 6 years old. And my mom went up to him and she said, "Hey, why are you watching my son swim?" And he goes like, "Hey, I'm the coach at Nicolet High School. What high school is he gonna end up going to?" And it was just kind of funny.
Oh, wow.
That was my first, intro to, Dwight. And then I ended up swimming there for 4 years and loved it. But, Dwight was one of these really unique coaches in that there's a tendency for a lot of coaches to either structure practices around or give a lot more attention to the athletes who may be better on the team. And Dwight had a really special ability to give everyone equal attention, because the way he viewed it is everyone was there to try and improve themselves and see how good they could get. So his whole focus was to try and help everyone get as far as they could and go as fast as they could in the time frame that they had to swim with him. And that's one of the things I loved about him. Plus he brought a great energy every day to the pool. Just funny, charismatic. He was happy to be there. He made it easy for you to be happy to be there.
And you can correct me, but I think he was one of the driving forces of the new pool, right? I mean, from the 6-lane pool to what is there at Nicolet now, he was one of the instrumental leaders to getting the new pool, correct?
I don't know that. I wouldn't be surprised, because he, has really fought for swimming for a long time and made it a really, we were never the best in Wisconsin. We were pretty good, but it was a sport that was well represented at Nicolet. A lot of people were
Right.
involved in swimming.
So Phil and I were talking as we were preparing for this. Your 100 freestyle record at the state meet still is the Wisconsin high school state record. Did you know that?
I hadn't kept up with that, but I guess the fact that I'm even maybe more proud of is that that pool record stood, even though the University of Wisconsin swim team always swam there.
Yep.
And it took a college swimmer in their kind of rested period wearing a fast skin suit that wasn't legal anymore to break that record. So I'm pretty proud of that. But that was a great swim. I have a lot of memories from that Wisconsin State meet. For anyone who's been there, there's no other meet ever like that. I mean, the noise and the energy in that place was just electric.
Well, and nobody's really kind of come close. I mean, I don't think there's been anyone under 44, and there was a guy this year who I think Isaac Casey went, I think, under 45, but even there's only a handful of guys. I mean, did you think it would be, standing around 17 years later, still as the state high school record?
Gosh, I had never even thought about it, honestly. I knew that I wanted to get that national high school record. That was what my whole eyes were set on back then. It feels good that the times you went when you were swimming are still relevant to this day.
Sure.
I mean, even the times I've gone long course, would still stack up today, in terms of fast swimmers, in the U.S.
Yeah.
I'm going to just close this real quickly.
Sure.
Sorry, I know that'll bother me otherwise.
It's okay. So that record stood. So then you decided to go to the University of Texas. And did you have Olympic trials in 2004 as well, before the 2008, right? And
yeah.
What was the learning experience there that was a fuel for inspiration to 2008?
Right. Yeah. So I guess I'll date back a little bit. So I first knew I wanted to go to the Olympics in '94 when I saw the Lillehammer Games. And at that point I was skiing and I was like, I want to be a downhill skier at the Olympics. Then I soon realized that the hill I was skiing on in Wisconsin was not going to prepare me for the downhill skiing in the Olympics. So then by '96, my sister and I were watching everything on TV, with the Atlanta Games. I was like, all right, this is what I want to do, swimming. We were swimming at the Fox Point pool. 2000, I was really into it. 2004, that summer, was after my freshman year at Texas. So to give you a little context of Texas, my freshman year, I walked on the pool deck and there were 6 U.S. Olympians already on the pool deck that were training at Texas. And one of the challenging parts about swimming at Texas is that most people who swim there, they go from being the best swimmer in their state or in their area, and then you get beat every single day, all day long.
You're on the B relay all of a sudden.
Yeah, and so, you go from being a great freestyler going 43.4 like I had in Wisconsin, and then, you're coming up against Nate Dusing, Josh Davis, Neil Walker, all these big-time studs who are just going super fast. And you get beat all the time. And when I set that national high school record in 2003, that's kind of when I really realized, okay, I could make the Olympic team, because I was in the top, that time was kind of the top 8 within the college NCAA Division I that year. And so I had my sights set on 2004 Olympic team. Okay, can I make the top 6? I'm pretty sure I can. That Olympic trials, I was seated 23rd going into the 100-meter free. I crossed off all the names of the people ahead of me that I wanted to beat, whether they swam at Auburn, which was our arch rival, or I, raced against them and I was like, I know I could beat them. And so I ended up getting through the prelims to the semifinals, through the semifinals to the finals. And I was like, all right, all I need to do is beat 2 people. And I ended up getting 7th place, missing the Olympic teams by 1 place when I was 18 years old. I was so upset. And I thought that was the end of my Olympic dream. I thought there was not going to be another opportunity for me. And my assistant coach at Texas, Chris Kubik, said, hey, look at the scoreboard. The scoreboard had our names on it. The place is still. And he said, promise yourself you'll never feel this type of pain and disappointment again. And so I thought about it. And that was huge fuel and motivation for me leading up to 2008. Every time I didn't want to wake up for practice, I thought back to that moment. Every time I didn't want to race someone in practice, I thought back to that moment. And that really drove me every day for the next 4 years towards what I did in 2008.
So Garrett, what drew you initially to Texas? And I'll probably just ask some follow-up questions about Eddie in particular. But what was it about Texas versus in Auburn or a Cal or a Michigan or some other program that kind of lured you?
Yeah. So when I was looking at college, I looked at USC, Stanford, Arizona, Cal, and Texas. And what was really important to me, and I said I was never going to go to college anywhere in the cold where I was going to have to wake up for morning practice. So I didn't look at anywhere in the cold. And what soon started to become apparent is there were some coaches who really cared about their athletes as swimmers, and some coaches who cared about their athletes as more than just swimmers. And I was really lucky that I had gone to some swim camps when I was young. I went to a sprint camp at Kenyon with Mike Bottom and Jim Steen.
Mm-hmm.
I'd gone to Arizona Sports Ranch with with Bob Glatt, who coached Misty Hyman. I'd gone to swim with Randy Reese down in Austin. And so I had gotten a chance to swim with some different coaches and understand different styles. And when I found Texas, it really rang true that Eddie Reese was more than just about you becoming a great swimmer. He cared about you as a person. It was more than just, how fast can you go for me while you're swimming as a collegiate swimmer, because there's so much more than that. He actually focused on us being successful in school before swimmers. And if I was going to go a really long way away from my parents, I needed someone who was going to take care of me outside of the pool just as much as like when I was in the water in the weight room.
So I read an interesting article about Eddie this past fall and got to watch. I had a chance to watch him up close, really closely this fall at a meet. And he talked about the importance of making swimming fun. That this is such a hard sport, and in a weird way, you sort of train almost alone. And that although you're with your teammates, you're just by yourself swimming out, looking at a black line. And he talked about he really emphasizes trying to make it fun. Was it that way with you? I mean, there's obviously a lot of hard work and a lot of competition, but he seems to create an atmosphere where the guys on deck, at least when I saw him this past fall, were having a lot of fun. Those are some pretty elite swimmers that you're looking at.
For sure. They do have a lot of fun. What Eddie's really gifted at, I would say his number one gift is he's good at really helping people expand what they think they're capable of. And so what he does is he gives you sets and times he wants you to go that are faster than you think you're capable of, but the interval is something typically you can easily make. So if you want to just cruise on by, you can. You're going to get a lot of crap from other people you're swimming with. But what happens is that all the guys you're swimming with, they rally against each other, and it develops this atmosphere where everyone's racing and everyone's, got this energy, and they're calling each other out for, racing harder. And that's what makes it fun. You're doing different things which allow you to go beyond what you thought you're capable of, and race guys you really respect over and over and over, in an environment that's relatively uncontrolled. I mean, he's giving you the set, but he's not controlling how fast you go or how many kicks you take underwater, or, it becomes really fun.
So is it really true? I've heard this a couple of times. Is it really true there are only two really important meets in the mind of Texas swimmers, the NCAA's and the inter-squad meet that you guys do in October?
Yeah, so I would say it's less the inter-squad meet and more what they call class relays.
That's it.
Yeah, the inter-squad meet is big, but the class relays is like
that's the one.
Meet and NCAA's. I mean, I split like 18-6 back in 2007 there in a jammer in a 50 freestyle. I mean, that was like, at the time, that was fast. And I mean, my adrenaline was as high at that meet as it ever was for any meet I've ever swum. Yeah.
I've heard it's pretty intense meet from people I've talked to who've seen it.
Yep.
Well, that's cool.
So was there any time, I know you mentioned about not wanting to get up for morning practice and using 2004 as a motivator. What advice would you have for kids now who we're now to 8 weeks of a break, and there's a potential that there won't be any swimming all summer, there may be potentially no swimming in the fall. What kind of mindset and what kind of things, maybe not necessarily exercise, but how are these kids going to prepare to get ready for maybe spring swimming or next summer swimming if this summer gets completely canceled? What kind of from your perspective, what kind of advice could you be giving these kids?
Yeah. Well, one thing I would be really mindful of is that everyone's in the same boat. So there's an easy tendency to think, oh, other people are getting ahead of me. Well, no one's in the water, so don't worry about it too much. Um, and the other thing is, I saw there's this group you're probably a part of, Swim Coaches Idea Exchange on
Yes.
Facebook. And there
Yeah.
was a post on there, someone posted of like how, they're worried these kids are going to get, so far behind. It's going to take them forever to get back in shape. And I think that's really, untrue, particularly with these young kids. I mean, what I've seen is anyone below the age of 21 or 22, they can bounce back and get in shape, like really physically in shape in 3 or 4 weeks. It takes them longer to get back, strength wise, maybe to where you were if you stop, working on strength. But I wouldn't worry about getting out of shape in the pool. You're not going to forget how to swim your strokes. You might have to fine tune some things. But for me, it's all about how can you possibly stay active? Because, one of the things my parents really, I think, did a great job with me on is that they didn't stress that I focus on just one thing. They actually viewed all these other things that I could do as a way for me to enhance my physical understanding of myself. So while I was skiing, I wasn't in the pool, but I was working on my balance and my muscles and understanding how my body works.
Right.
When I was playing soccer, I was also understanding how my body works. And so the same thing applies to swimming. So as long as these athletes can stay active, going on a jog, playing soccer by yourself, throwing a baseball with your brother or sister or parents, like the most important thing that I stress with swimming is that it's a puzzle. Going fast in swimming is a puzzle, and it requires you to figure out things emotionally about yourself and physically.
Yes.
And putting those pieces together is kind of the same if you're in baseball or swimming. You have to do a lot of the same things. And these kids are going to be primed up and ready to go by the time they get back in the water.
Garrett, I want to touch a little bit on your involvement in nutrition. You've been writing a column for Splash Magazine, the USA Swimming Magazine, on proper nutrition, and I've read some stuff that suggests that kids who sort of make a leap, either from a good high school swimmer to a really good one, or the transition to college swimming or even to elite swimming, that oftentimes one of the foundations for that is proper nutrition and proper eating. Can you tell us, was it that way for you, and how did you get into this notion that really we need to pay attention to what we eat every day to maintain the hard training that we do so often?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what I found was a little bit by happenstance, actually. I missed the team in '04. In 2005, that fall, I was diagnosed with dangerously high blood pressure to the point where I almost had to stop swimming because I was at risk of a stroke or a heart attack. And I didn't want to take medication because I was tested by 3 different drug testing organizations. And they said, well, you have to take a low dose of medication so we can get you to healthy, safe range. They said the other thing you need to figure out is your nutrition. So I started seeing a sports nutritionist. I started getting cooking classes. I mean, at this point, I'm living on my own. At college, I had no idea how to cook anything. And not only did I see my blood pressure go down, but this strange thing happened, which is I was performing better in the weight room. I was performing better in the pool. I was recovering faster. And there's this common notion with athletes, and I think particularly swimmers, is that we're burning so many calories. If we physically don't look any different, we're still fine if we're going and having a whole pizza and, a whole pint of Ben and Jerry's. But the reality is that there's a difference between how you look and how you feel and perform. I mean, I've seen people who are six-pack chiseled and they eat horrible food and then they switch their diet up and they're tearing practices apart like they never had before. So, it just became a really important thing for me. And I would never have made the Olympic team in 2008. I really credit that to being a huge part of my success, that nutrition and focusing on what I eat and refueling myself. Knowing that all those little things, again, it's a puzzle. What are all the puzzle pieces? Nutrition is a puzzle piece. Hydration is a puzzle piece. your technique and freestyle is a puzzle piece. So all those things you have to put together if you really want to be a great swimmer. And if you just want to go to high school, you don't have to put all those puzzle pieces together. But if you want to go to college, you have to put more of them together. And if you want to go to the Olympic trials, you have to put more of them together. And if you want to go to the Olympics, well, you got to pretty much put that whole puzzle together.
So for some of our high school student athletes who might be watching, what are some major do's and don'ts that you might recommend on nutrition wise?
Yeah, my gosh. I mean, it's a hard topic to explore because everyone is so different. I would say one of the things that I did was be mindful of little things that can make a big impact. So one of the first things I did was like deciding how many cheats that I wanted to have in a week. So a cheat could be eating pizza, it could be having a brownie. So like typically what I would do is 2 cheats per week. I started carrying a water bottle with me more often so I would be hydrated. I mean, it can be even like there are a lot of kids who probably don't have a salad or vegetables, like adding something like that in, not having, white pasta or white rice all the time, but having more whole grains. I mean, there are a million things people can do. I would say that the easiest thing to do is find someone in your community who you can consult with. A lot of communities have a nutritionist you can go see. Some school districts have a nutritionist you can see. A 30-minute consult with someone on the phone, via Zoom call, in person, can go a huge way to you feeling better and performing better in the pool and in the weight room.
Well, that's great advice because I know there's a swimmer locally who you may have heard of, Bina Nelson, who's an NCAA champion. And Bina talked about like what was the biggest difference, the biggest transition, the thing you learned the most your freshman year in college. And she said the importance of sleep and the importance of good nutrition, that those two things were sort of centered her ability to do what she's done. And I was really struck by that those aren't, it's not training harder or working, 80% more or weight room cardio stuff, or it was very much sort of things that I think swimmers sometimes take for granted and really shouldn't, that the importance of those things is high up on the list for swimmers.
Yeah. And I would say I even see sleep as a bigger challenge now. When I was a kid and when I was even in college, we didn't have Netflix. People weren't watching Netflix on their phone in bed until 1 a.m. As I've learned, that's like a real problem actually with kids in middle school and high school now that they're doing this. And the idea of being able to perform well on little sleep is just a fallacy. It's not possible.
Yeah.
Are you still swimming?
Yeah, I would say I swim anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week. A lot of times after I go do an arm workout at the gym, I'll go for a 15-20-minute swim in the pool. We have a big spring-fed pool in Austin that's outside and 300 yards long. I'll go swim there typically once a week after a run. At this point for me, it's all about being in the water and just enjoying the water. I don't really do anything fast. I'll do some 25s fast, but that's kind of as far as I go at a top speed now.
So one last question about swimming. You swam on really what is the most famous relay in the history of, I think, certainly from an American perspective, the most famous relay in history. Did you know after the 2008 games that was it for you, that you had reached a point where, boy, you've got a gold medal around your neck, you've swum at the Olympics, fulfilled a lifelong dream? Did you know that was it? And how did you know that, or how did you come to that decision?
I mean, well, I swam until 2013, and
Okay.
I kept getting after it, and I missed the Olympic team in 2012 by 2 spots. I mean, I missed it in 2004 and 12, made it in 2008. I mean, I think if you can accomplish things at a 33% ratio in life, you're probably doing pretty well. But
Sure.
What's funny about goals and dreams is that when you accomplish them, it's never what you thought it would be. I mean, the Olympic gold medal was really cool. It was a fun experience. I'm very proud of it and honored that I got to do that. I don't think about the Olympic gold medal or that race for months at a time. What I do think about are the times I trained at Texas, those fun meets. Like, I'm not kidding you. I think about that high school do meet we had at Nicolet against Homestead my junior year, where we beat them by 3 points on the last relay, and they had been the defending high school champs for like 4 years in a row, and we hated Homestead. Those are the things that really matter. And I think the dream is what keeps you fueled up and working hard. But it's just not. I don't want to say it's not all that it's cracked up to be, but you hear about these people who, sell their business, for a crazy amount of money, and then it's kind of this letdown of like, is that really all there is? And
Yeah.
it's like when they look back on it, what they really care was when they were in the trenches and they were figuring stuff out and they were going after, and that's what I love about swimming. And so, I left 2008 with a lot of excitement, from the 2 gold medals, but I also missed some opportunities that I had individually to win individual gold medals in the 50 and 100 freestyle. I broke the American record, both of those, and won both of those at the Olympic trials, and made it to the semifinals of both in Beijing, but didn't make the finals. And the time I had went would have won the silver medal in Beijing. So that was frustrating in and of itself. And so, I wanted to go back in 2012. I had ups and downs, anywhere from being ranked second in the world in 2011 in the 100 freestyle, and then missing it in 2012. Those were challenges, but I'm really thankful I can look back on my swimming career and say, I literally turned over every stone I could have. I gave it my all, and I had a really fun time doing it. And if people can leave the sport saying, I turned over every stone I could and I had a lot of fun doing it, and whatever level you finish at, that's a really wonderful gift that you've given yourself.
So we usually wrap up the webcast with what I call them the sprint spec questions. They're just questions, and I want your initial first response for each one of them, okay? The first one is your favorite pool.
University of Texas.
Your favorite event.
100 freestyle.
The favorite race you've ever watched in person that you weren't part of.
400 individual medley at the 2002 Summer Nationals in Fort Lauderdale. Phelps versus Eric Vent. Phelps was way ahead. Eric Vent catches him on the breaststroke, and it was just an epic battle on that last 100 freestyle. That was an incredible race.
The toughest high school event.
$200 AM, maybe.
Okay. This is coaching mentor. So you've got Coach Davis and you got your coach at Texas. Is there anybody else that you want to list as a coaching mentor that really meant something to you?
Yeah, Randy Reese for sure. He's Eddie Reese's brother. He was really formative for me. I swam for him for 8 or 9 months after my junior year of high school, went down there for the summer, first semester of my senior year of high school. He was really the guy who noticed that I had a really great freestyle, and I was a backstroker up until that point. We started working on my freestyle more, along with Neil Walker, Josh Davis, those guys who had great freestylers down there at Circle C. And he, I would say, really was the impetus for me developing into a freestyler. That summer I made the Nationals 100 freestyle, and then I made my Olympic trials first cut at the US Open swimming for him. So he, I would say, is just my favorite. He's just an incredible person.
One thing you would change about high school swimming?
That's a great question. I have no idea. I absolutely loved high school swimming. I wish it could go longer. There's something almost even more cool about representing your high school than your college. And they've got just these quirky meets like the sprint invite. It's just, or there was that one meet that we did where it was just relays. Like it was a 300-yard fly relay. That's so cool.
One person, living or dead, that you'd like to meet in the swimming world. Now you've met a lot. You've been on a lot of national teams, so your range of people that you know is greater than most people.
Wide.
So
yeah, I've met most of them. That's a great question. I would like to talk to Thorpe, actually. I've never talked to Thorpe, and I'd like to ask him about, when he was in his prime, what it was like at the Olympics in Sydney when they won that 400 freestyle against the Americans. He was anchoring. That would be a fun conversation to
And I don't have any more questions, but one of them I was curious about it. Did you get to go to any other events like in 2008? Did you get to go watch any of the other sports?
Yeah.
When swimming was done, it's usually the first week. Did you get to go to basketball or track, or what did you get to do? Is there a cool story that you could tell us?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of one of the cool things about swimming is you're done the first week and then you just get to hang out and party and have a great time. And we went to sand volleyball, we went to track and field. I've been to rowing, kayaking,
Oh, wow.
gymnastics. God, I can't even remember all of them. I've probably been to 10 or 12 different events, and it's just so cool to see these people accomplishing their life's dream. And that's one of the unique things about the Olympics. I'll never forget when I first went to the Olympic Village, that first lunch I had, I sat down and Roger Federer was sitting across the table
Oh, wow.
3 feet away from me. And no one was bothering him. It's like, hey, here's Roger Federer, but like he's here, he's going after his Olympic dream. I don't know this to be true. I knew Kobe Bryant, and I never asked him this, but actually someone who knew him really well told me he was more proud of his Olympic gold medal than he was of any NBA championships. And the people who were there, like even Federer, like it's really cool for them to be there. And there's this aura that everyone just has this mutual respect that people are there just trying to accomplish their dreams. So when you're done with swimming and you get to go to these other events, you see people in their domain just having an absolute blast doing what they do.
And Kobe really admired swimmers. I mean, he really, made a point of going to
So
swim.
funny story about this. So I saw Kobe in Beijing after our relay, and he told me that he had been in his hotel room. He'd been kind of feeling sick. Our relay came on, and he was watching it. By the end of the relay, he was jumping up and down the room screaming, and he was like, all right, we've got to win the gold medal right now. Because if you remember, in 2004, the USA basketball team got bronze.
Yeah.
And after our relay, he had, was telling me about how, like, he was so charged up from that relay. He was like, dude, I got to win our gold medal now. And so that was a pretty cool story to hear from him, and that we inspired Kobe Bryant. That was a pretty cool deal.
That is awesome.
Well, we've reached the end of our time, Garrett. I really appreciate you being on the show. When this gets posted online, I'll let you know and you can review it. I'm sure there'll be a lot of comments, and I really do appreciate you taking the time for being with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks so much, Garrett.
Thanks for having me. And, I really appreciate Wisconsin swimming. I have a lot of wonderful memories in the state of Wisconsin. It was very formative for me. And I guess one thing I guess I'll leave as a note, which is I met Neil Walker, Wisconsin Olympian, at the A+ meet my freshman year. And Paul Domer, who
Yep.
he said, hey, are you going to the A+ meet tonight to watch Neil Walker swim? And I said, who's Neil Walker? He's like, that guy goes 44 in the 100 back. And at this point, I didn't even know if people were going 44 in the 100 freestyle, much less backstroke. I said, are you kidding me? So I went to the meet. Neil goes 46 in the 100 back, and I was really disappointed. I was like, he only went 46. What the heck? I thought he was going to go 44. But anyways, I went up and talked to him for a while, and that was when I realized, like, oh, hey, this guy's kind of the same as me. He's from Wisconsin. He went to Texas. He swam at the Olympics. And I just want to really impress upon the fact that Wisconsin swimming is a great place to come from. And any kid who has a dream to go to the Olympics, that is a valid dream. And, I'm living proof that you can come from wherever the heck you want. And there are a lot of roads to the Olympics. I think everyone who's swimming in Wisconsin should be really thankful that they've got a state that cares about swimming. And
well, again, thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Garrett.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Have a good night.
cool. Thank you all.